I'm gonna be real with all of you. Death is a weird thing. I mean, there are only a few things that are inevitable in life. You know, heartbreak, taxes, stubbing your goddamn pinky toe over and over again, and, well, death. And that last part is actually going to be the topic of today's video. You see, while I was trying to decide what to make a video on, I stumbled upon a story that kind of blew my mind. And it's a story about death. This story is about something that was able to predict death when others couldn't, and in fact, this thing was so accurate that doctors would use this somebody to predict when a patient was going to die. This something wasn't a religious zealot, wasn't a fitness guru, and wasn't even a psychic. Actually, it wasn't even human. This death prognosticator happened to be a cat named Oscar. And we need to go back to 2005 to tell Oscar's story properly. The Steere House Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Providence, Rhode Island, treats patients with severe dementia and wanted to feel more like a home and less like a medical center. So they adopted a cat named Oscar in 2005 alongside 5 other cats. Dr. David Dosa is a geriatrician and professor at Brown University who worked on the 3rd floor of the Steere House and was actually responsible for bringing Oscar into the limelight. He wrote a publication in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2007, and Dr. Dosa said this about Oscar early on. Oscar was initially sort of a very scared cat. He wouldn't really like to come out, he would keep to himself. And oftentimes, you'd find him in the supply closet or under a bed somewhere, and it wasn't really until somebody was near death that Oscar would sort of come out front and center. You see, after a year, the staff noticed that Oscar would spend his days pacing from room to room. He sniffed and looked at the patients, but rarely spent much time with anyone, except when they only had a few hours to live. Oscar would go about his cat business until he sensed that the end was coming for a patient. Oscar would come out from his hiding, find the patient in need, crawl up to them to comfort, and stay with them as they died. We would eventually find out after he did this several times that the people he was staying with were usually the next ones to go. 1 death occurred, then 2 deaths, and ultimately he had about 20 or 30 deaths in a row, at which point everybody started to say, wow, this is something quite unique. There was even one instance where a patient was dying and the relatives asked that Oscar be removed from the room. Oscar stood outside the door and went into such a frenzy of meowing, caterwauling, and scratching at the door that they had to remove him from the premises. I mean, at this point, some started to call Oscar an angel of death, a furry reaper, if you will. And funny enough, that furry angel of death actually helped the nurses in taking care of the patients. Nurses once placed Oscar in the bed of a patient they thought was gravely ill. Oscar wouldn't stay put, and the staff, well, they thought his streak was broken. Turns out, the medical professionals were the ones who were wrong, and, well, the cat was right. You see, the patient had 2 days left, and Oscar knew that, but once the final hours began to tick down, Oscar was right next to the patient without prompting. People actually were taking great comfort in this idea, that this animal was there and might be there when their loved ones eventually pass. He was there when they couldn't be. In a crazy statistic, as of January 2010, Oscar the cat accurately predicted 50 deaths over his time at the nursing home. But this leads us to the question, why was Oscar so accurate at predicting when patients were going to die? I mean, Oscar was so accurate that the nurses and even Dr. Dosa created a protocol to inform the patient's family that they were in the last moments when Oscar went to the patient's bedside. Well, there is actually a really good explanation why.
Oscar is dead. He's the incarnation of death and is freely reaping the souls of dementia patients under the guise of a cute cat.
Okay, I actually kid on that one. Dr. Dosa theorizes that Oscar could smell the odors given off by dying cells in the patients. See, when a cell is getting to the end of its life, it will signal to its neighboring cells that it is dying. These signals are given off through its metabolic secretome, also known as the biomolecules that cells secrete into the bloodstream. So, maybe the exact process that Oscar was smelling and was letting him know when a patient's time was up. A cat's sense of smell is their primary sense, and cats have more than 200 million odor senses in their noses. Humans have just 5 million. So that's a 40 times difference. Animals sensing things in humans isn't anything new. I think the main thing we go to when we think of an animal sensing something are service dogs. Some people who suffer from serious epilepsy use specially trained dogs provided by charities to warn their owners of impending seizures. They'll lick them or give them some other signal. Dogs have even been used to detect bladder cancer by smelling it in urine. So, yeah. Animals have been sensing issues in humans for a long, long time. Learning how Oscar sensed death kind of got me thinking, can humans sense death? And as it turns out, humans kind of can detect death, although it's not nearly as concrete as a cat smelling cells dying. There are two phenomena that people can exhibit when they sense death: impending doom and near-death awareness. A sense of impending doom is the feeling that something life-threatening or catastrophic might happen soon. This sense of impending doom is often fueled by the fact that the mind is a meaning-making machine that seeks patterns and attributes meaning to what we are experiencing. A sense of impending doom can trigger before a serious medical situation, and therefore, our brain is trying to make sense of what is happening internally to us, and it signals this to the body. I want you to imagine you're having a heart attack. Only you've never had one before and don't realize that you're actually having a heart attack. You just think you're having heartburn or you tweak something in your chest. Your body is sending you signals, letting you know something ain't right, fam. And through these internal signals, you may feel a sense of impending doom. You know something isn't right, but you just can't exactly explain what it is. However, a sense of impending doom doesn't always mean death. It can simply trigger from intense emotional states like panic attacks. In many cases, the sense of impending doom occurs before the symptoms that would indicate a true medical emergency is present. There is a concept akin to the sense of impending doom called near-death awareness, and with near-death awareness comes death. You see, near-death awareness, or NDA, is a term to describe a person's auditory, visual, or cognitive experiences of the dying process, and broadly refers to a variety of experiences such as end-of-life dreams or visions, and occur in a clear consciousness. They are reported with clarity, detail, and organization, and they often evoke feelings of comfort rather than distress, morbidly enough. David Cazaret, who is a professor of medicine at the Duke University of Medicine, has said that he has noticed when patients are having NDA, they feel something different, or changing, or new. One young man dying of sarcoma told me he had felt free. Another middle-aged woman dying of liver cancer said she felt like she was falling out of a plane. Both had been correct to sense something amiss, and both died within the hour. The reason for NDA is unknown, but it is hypothesized that, much like impending doom, it's the body giving off physiological signals that the body is going through something. But it is paired with people who are in terminal situations. The last hours of a life usually upend normal physiology in countless ways. Blood flow is often decreased, oxygen is in short supply, cells run out of energy and begin to shut down irreversibly. Even ions like sodium and potassium are thrown far out of their normal narrow tolerances. This is just to name a few. What's interesting is that the culture and personality of somebody may play a part in what people see in their NDA. Now, I can guarantee there are probably going to be some people watching this video, and anytime they feel anxious or think something's off, they think they're having impending doom or an NDA. So yeah, in a weird sense, people can predict death, but it's in a less scientific way than how Oscar sensed it. Unfortunately, our little story does have a bittersweet ending. Oscar passed away at the age of 17 on February 22nd, 2022. Dr. Dossel remarked that despite his fame, Oscar was just an ordinary cat who was beloved by the staff at Steere House for doing what cats do: hanging around, getting in the way, and providing companionship to those he lived with on a day-to-day basis. And I think that last part is important to note, that Oscar was just providing comfort to those who needed it. I know that a lot of people fear death and the myriad of forms it takes, but I think it's important to see what we have right now. I think it's important to be an Oscar and to try to provide comfort for those who need it. Make sure people aren't alone. And even Oscar isn't the only documented cat that could sense when people were dying. There was also a red tabby named Buckwheat in Seattle that was comforting patients in a retirement home all the way back in 2004. I know this isn't a creepy video, but I found it interesting nonetheless, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it and found it interesting as well. Death is a motif that is basically in every single one of my videos, and it's kind of interesting taking a look at it from a different lens. You know, I think a lot of people view death as this scary shadow, this dark omen, but I don't think it needs to be that way. I think death can weirdly be almost a comforting end to some. But let me know in the comments down below if you or anyone you know has passed away and had a sense of impending doom or an NDA. I've been Conrad Jacobellis. I know this may have been a shorter video. I hope all of you enjoyed this Conrad Quickie. Kisses, hugs, belly rubs, and I'll see you in the next video.